Vox watched the spy cameras like a man who had made voyeurism into an art form. 12 screens flickered in his private office, each one trained on a different angle of that ridiculous hotel. Charlie Morningstar's little redemption project. The thought made him grin. 24 hours until the exorcists turned it into rubble and the princess still believed sinners could be saved. The ratings would be phenomenal. He leaned back, fingers drumming against the armrest. Valentino had called it a waste of time. Angel dust wasn't coming back, the moth had said. But Vox knew better. You didn't invest this much surveillance equipment just to watch. You invested it to own the narrative. When that hotel collapsed, when Charlie's dream died, screaming every screen in Pride Ring would show his commentary, his spin, his static. All 12 screens erupted into white noise simultaneously. Vox lurched forward, hands slamming onto the desk. This wasn't a technical glitch. Technical glitches didn't make the neon signs outside his tower flicker like dying fireflies. They didn't make the bass-heavy thrum of Pentagram City's infrastructure stutter and wheeze. The screens went black. Then the city did too. For 3 seconds, Pride Ring held its breath in absolute darkness. No billboards, no streetlights, no electric glow from the casinos that never closed. Just pure, suffocating void. When the lights returned, they came back wrong. Neon tubes sparked in colors that didn't belong in any spectrum Vox recognized. Advertisement screens displayed corrupted code that looked almost like ancient script. And somewhere deep in the city's electrical veins, something fundamental had shifted. "What the fuck?" Vox whispered. His screens flickered back to life. Not the hotel feeds. Just one image repeated across all 12 displays. The hotel lobby, but the camera angle was impossible. Too high, too centered. Like reality itself had decided to frame the shot. And in the middle of that lobby where carpet met tile and Charlie's good intentions met the cruel physics of hell space, tore open. Charlie had exactly 4 seconds to process what she was seeing before her entire understanding of metaphysics restructured itself. The rift didn't open like a door. It opened like a wound. The air simply split edges, crackling with something that wasn't fire and wasn't lightning, but somehow hurt to look at anyway. The sound it made defied description, bones breaking underwater maybe, or a scream that had forgotten how to be a scream. Vaggie moved first. Of course she did. 1 second she was arguing with Alastor about the defensive perimeter, the next she had her spear in hand and her body between Charlie and the impossible thing happening in the middle of their lobby. "Get back," Vaggie said, voice flat with the kind of calm that came from too many wars. Charlie didn't move. Couldn't move. Because through that rift, she could see something that made the concept of redemption feel suddenly terrifyingly small. A figure stepped through, not emerged, not appeared. Stepped with the deliberate weight of someone who had walked through worse. He was massive. Not in the cartoonish way some of Hell's overlords played at intimidation, but in the way that made the lobby feel smaller just by his presence. Ash-white skin marked with crimson tattoos that weren't decorative, they looked carved, earned permanent. The kind of scars that didn't heal because they weren't meant to. The blades came next. Twin chains attached to forearms. The weapons hanging with a casual readiness that suggested they'd tasted more blood than the entire Extermination Day roster combined. Behind Charlie, someone dropped a glass. The sound of it shattering felt obscene in the silence. The rift sealed itself. Not slowly, just closed like reality zipping up a wound it didn't want to acknowledge. The man stood perfectly still. His eyes swept the room with mechanical precision, cataloging exits, threats, structural weaknesses. Charlie had seen soldiers do that. Vaggie did it every time they entered a new space. But this wasn't a soldier's assessment. This was something older, colder. This was how you looked at a battlefield when you'd already decided which parts would burn. "Welcome to the Hazbin Hotel," Charlie heard herself say, and the words came out too bright, too fast, too desperate. We're a place of redemption and second chances and... No, one word, delivered with the weight of a falling mountain. Charlie blinked. I'm sorry. This is not redemption. His voice carried an accent she couldn't place, roughened by what sounded like centuries of screaming. This is a fortress pretending to be a home. Alastor materialized from the shadows near the bar. Because of course he did. The radio demon's smile widened to something that might have been genuine interest, or might have been the expression a cat made before it started playing, with interesting prey. My, Alastor said, static crackling around the edges of his words. What an unexpected guest, and so delightfully direct. He tilted his head antlers, catching the lobby's uncertain light. Perhaps we could discuss terms. I'm quite skilled at arrangements that benefit all parties involved. I do not make deals. The temperature in the room dropped, not metaphorically. Charlie could see her breath. Alastor's smile didn't change, but something behind his eyes did. Something that recognized a fundamental incompatibility. He was a creature of contracts, of carefully worded agreements, and negotiated power. This thing that had walked through a hole in space operated on different principles entirely. Everybody makes deals, friend. Angel dust called from the stairs because apparently today was the day everyone decided to test fate. What's your angle? You don't look like you're here for the continental breakfast. The stranger's gaze shifted to Angel with the kind of attention a surgeon might give a particularly interesting tumor. Angel's follow-up joke died in his throat. I did not choose this place, the man said, but I am here. And in 24 hours you will be attacked. Vaggy's spear lowered slightly. How do you know about the extermination? I have killed gods who called themselves heaven before. He said it the way someone else might comment on the weather. They always announce themselves. They always believe their righteousness makes them invincible. His hand moved to the chains at his wrists, a reflexive gesture that made Charlie's stomach clench. They are always wrong. Right, Husk muttered from behind the bar, pouring himself something that probably wasn't his first drink of the hour. So we've got a walking nightmare who knows about the Angel hit squad. This is exactly what we needed today. Charlie stepped forward despite Vaggy's warning hiss. Up close, she could see details that made her chest ache. The scars weren't random. They told a story, hundreds of stories, actually each one written in tissue that had been destroyed and forced to remember. What's your name? She asked. He looked at her. Really looked like he was trying to determine if the question was a trap or if she was genuinely this naive. Kratos. I'm Charlie. This is my hotel. My dream. She gestured around the lobby at the faded glory and stubborn hope of it all. We're trying to prove that sinners can be redeemed, that there's another way besides violence, and there is no other way. The certainty in those 4 words hit like a physical blow. That's not true, Charlie said, and she could hear her voice climbing toward that desperate pitch that Vaggy always warned her about. We can talk. We can find common ground. We can... Your extermination arrives in 24 hours, Kratos interrupted. Talk will not stop spears. Common ground will not deflect holy fire. You have a choice. Fortify this place and kill the ones who come to kill you. Or die believing in redemption while your enemies burn your corpse. Silence crashed through the lobby like a tidal wave. Nifty appeared from somewhere near the ceiling. Charlie still hadn't figured out how she did that, and circled Kratos twice with manic energy. Ooh, you're very stabby looking. Are you good at stabbing? I like stabbing. Kratos stared at the small Cyclops demon with an expression that might have been confusion, or might have been the recognition of a kindred spirit in chaos. Yes, he said finally, I am good at stabbing. Wonderful, Nifty chirped, then vanished back into whatever maintenance shaft she called home. The absurdity of the moment broke something. Charlie felt a laugh bubble up that was half hysteria, half exhaustion. They had one day. one day before Heaven's army descended with the explicit goal of erasing everyone she cared about. And now, they had this weapon in the shape of a man who looked at her dream like it was already a corpse. "We're not giving up," Charlie said quietly. "That's not how this works." Kratos nodded slowly, like she'd confirmed something he already suspected. "Then prepare, because mercy is not among the virtues your enemies practice." An alarm shrieked through the hotel's sound system. Ancient, barely functional, but still capable of delivering bad news. Vaggi cursed in Spanish and pulled out a battered phone that looked like it had survived at least 3 apocalypses. "What is it?" Charlie asked. Vaggi's face went pale. Well, paler. "Official broadcast from Heaven's embassy? Extermination Day moved up. We don't have 24 hours. She looked up, eye wide, with something that might have been fear, or might have been combat readiness. "We have 18. The hotel lobby, for one perfect moment, achieved absolute silence. Then Alastor started laughing. "Wow, that entrance is insane. Because 1 second Vox is watching his screens like a total creep. And the next, Kratos just walks in and breaks the reality. It is so cool how he immediately calls the hotel a fortress pretending to be a home. He sees right through the decorations and knows exactly what is coming. Kratos is definitely not here for breakfast, and he is already acting like a grumpy dad to everyone. But honestly, do you think Charlie's kindness will actually work on a guy who literally kills gods for a living? I think many of you may think Kratos is going to be a hero, or maybe he's just a big problem for the hotel. Now let's see how they get ready for the big fight. 18 hours. The number sat in Charlie's chest like swallowed glass. 18 hours until wings and spears and righteous fury descended on everything she'd tried to build. 18 hours to turn a hotel into something that could withstand Heaven's wrath. She watched Kratos move through the building's ground floor with the efficiency of a man conducting an autopsy. Not inspecting, dissecting. His fingers traced load-bearing walls, tested window frames pressed against door jambs with deliberate pressure, searching for weakness, finding it everywhere. "This won't hold," he said, not looking at her. One hand rested against the main entrance, scarred knuckles white against ornate wood. "First wave breaks through here. We can reinforce it." Charlie offered, hating how her voice pitched upward into hope. "Add barriers, maybe some—" "No." He moved to the eastern wall where Angel Dust had insisted on keeping the original stained glass because it made the place feel less like a prison. Kratos studied it for 3 seconds. "They'll come through glass first. Easiest breach. Secondary entry." Angel Dust, perched on the staircase railing, with studied casualness, let out a low whistle. "So what, we brick up the windows? Turn this place into a fucking bunker?" "Yes." The single syllable landed with finality. Charlie felt something crack inside her. Not break, just crack. The hotel was supposed to be welcoming, open, a place where sinners could see themselves as more than what hell told them they were. Kratos was describing a tomb. "We have options." She started, but Vaggi's hand on her shoulder stopped her. "He's right." Vaggi's voice carried the weight of too many sieges. "Glass is a liability. We board it up or we bleed." From the bar, Husk poured something amber into a rocks glass. "Nothing says redemption like turning your hope factory into a killing box." "Survival first," Vaggi said. "Philosophy later." Charlie wanted to argue. Wanted to explain that the windows meant something, that every choice they made defined what they were becoming. But Kratos had already moved on, walking the perimeter with mechanical precision, not waiting for consensus, not asking permission, just cataloging how people would die. And the supplies arrived in a rusted van driven by one of Carmilla Carmine's crew. A demon with too many arms and not enough interest in conversation. He dumped crates in the courtyard without ceremony, collected a signature from Vaggie, and vanished back into Pentagram City's perpetual twilight. Charlie approached the nearest crate. Plain wood. No markings. She knew what was inside before she opened it. Angelic steel. The weapons gleamed wrong in hell's ambient light. Swords, spears, daggers, all forged from metal that could end things permanently. No respawning, no second chances. Just death as final as any human had ever known it. Her hands shook as she lifted a short blade. It felt heavier than physics suggested, like the weight included every soul it might erase. Don't! Kratos' voice cut through her spiraling thoughts. He stood 10 feet away, arms crossed, expression unreadable. If you're not prepared to use it, put it down. I'm not putting weapons in people's hands so they can survive. He stepped closer, lowering his voice enough that only she could hear. You believe in redemption. I understand. But they believe in cleansing, and their belief comes with spears. Charlie met those cold eyes and saw no cruelty there. Just certainty. The kind of certainty that came from watching ideals shatter against reality too many times to count. If we use these, she said slowly, we're no different than them. You're already different. Kratos gestured toward the hotel where Nifty was somehow hanging upside down from a chandelier while scrubbing it with manic intensity. They want you dead because you offer hope. That makes you dangerous. That makes you worth killing. He picked up one of the angelic blades, tested its balance with professional detachment. The question is whether you die holding your principles or holding a weapon. Those aren't the only options. They are today. Vaggie cleared her throat from the doorway. Charlie, we need to decide. Distribution takes time. Charlie looked at the crates. At the steel that could save them or damn them. At Kratos, who stood there, like a monument to every war that had ever rejected mercy as weakness. She thought about Sir Pentious, who'd been so excited about his terrible inventions. About Angel Dust, who'd chosen to stay despite having every reason to run. About Husk, who'd started smiling again, just a little. About Nifty's chaos and Vaggie's impossible patience and even Alastor's theatrical madness. About everyone who'd be ash if she chose wrong. Distribute them, she said quietly, but only to people who can fight, and only as defense. Kratos nodded once. Not approval, just acknowledgement that she'd made a choice. Charlie felt that crack inside her spread a little wider. The next 3 hours blurred into organized chaos. Kratos moved through the building like a general commanding troops who hadn't realized they'd enlisted. He didn't ask, didn't explain, just gave orders and clipped sentences that somehow carried more authority than Alastor's flowery manipulation ever had. Steel along entry points. Furniture there, overturned, creates funnel. Civilian second floor, locked doors from inside. Vaggie translated his battlefield shorthand into actual instructions, coordinating with the handful of sinners who'd chosen to stay and fight. Most of Cannibal Town's volunteers worked in grim silence, hauling debris and building makeshift barricades with the efficiency of people who understood stakes. Angel Dust appeared beside Charlie, carrying what looked like 3 rifles and a box of ammunition that definitely hadn't come from Carmilla's shipment. Found my stash, he said with a grin that didn't reach his eyes. Figured if we're doing this, might as well do it with style. Where did you even get? Questions I don't answer, and you don't want to know, babe. He checked one rifle's mechanism with practiced ease. But these beauties, they'll punch holes in angel wings just fine. Charlie wanted to ask if he was scared. Wanted to ask if any of them were thinking about what happens after the fighting stops. Wanted to ask if they'd still recognize each other when the blood washed off. But Angel was already climbing to a second-floor window, setting up a firing position with the casual competence of someone who'd done this before. Everyone here had done this before she realized. Everyone except her. The hotel trembled. Not from impact, from transformation. Every decision stripped away another piece of what made it a place of hope. Boarded windows, sharpened stakes, weapons distributed to shaking hands. War didn't arrive in 18 hours. It was already here redecorating. She found Kratos on the roof, examining sight lines with clinical detachment. "They'll drop from above first," he said without turning. "Test defenses, probe for weakness, then the main force." "How do you know?" "Because it's what I would do." Charlie stepped beside him, looking out over Pride Ring's twisted skyline. Somewhere beyond those neon towers, heaven was preparing to erase her dream. Somewhere up there, angels were sharpening spears and singing hymns about cleansing and righteous fire. "Do you think we can win?" she asked. Kratos was quiet for a long moment. "Win is the wrong word. You can survive. You can make them pay for every inch. You can prove you won't die quietly." He glanced at her, and something almost human flickered across his features. "That's all victory ever is." "That's horrible." "Yes." Thunder rumbled in the distance, though hell's sky never produced natural weather. Charlie felt the first drops of acid rain kiss her skin, burning tiny holes that healed almost instantly. Below them, the hotel grounds had transformed into a killing field wearing the skin of a refuge. "I never wanted this," she whispered. Kratos' expression didn't change. "No one who matters ever does." Night fell, or what passed for night, in hell's eternal twilight. The hotel settled into tense silence, everyone retreating to their own preparations, their own fears. Charlie found Vaggie in their room, sharpening her spear with methodical strokes. "Hey," Charlie said softly. "Hey yourself." Vaggie didn't look up. "You holding together?" "I gave the order to arm people with weapons designed to erase souls. I'm peachy." Vaggie set the whetstone down, finally meeting Charlie's gaze. "You gave the order to let people defend themselves. There's a difference." "Is there?" Charlie sank onto the bed, exhaustion crushing down on shoulders that weren't built to carry this weight. Every choice today felt like giving up a piece of what we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be alive. Vaggie sat beside her, taking Charlie's hand. "Everything else we can figure out after." "What if there is no after?" "Then we go down fighting for something that mattered." Vaggie squeezed her hand. "That's more than most people get." Charlie leaned against her, finding comfort in the solid warmth of someone who'd chosen to stand with her, even when it meant standing against heaven itself. Outside, she could hear movement, footsteps, weapons being tested, prayers being whispered to gods who'd long since stopped listening. A knock at the door made them both tense. Alastor stood in the hallway, smile firmly in place, but radio static crackling louder than usual around his edges. "Apologies for the intrusion," he said with exaggerated courtesy. "But I thought our dear princess should know our new friend has positioned himself at the main entrance, alone. Refuses to move despite Husk's colorful suggestions." Charlie was on her feet immediately, Vaggie close behind. They found Kratos sitting cross-legged before the reinforced doors, weapons within easy reach, eyes closed in something that looked like meditation, but felt like a predator conserving energy before the hunt. "You should rest," Charlie said. "There's rooms, beds. I've rested in worse places." He didn't open his eyes. "And I don't sleep before battle." "Never. Not in a long time." Charlie studied him in the dim light filtering through boarded windows. This creature of war and ash and unbreakable certainty. This thing that had fallen into her world and started reshaping it with brutal efficiency. "Why are you helping us?" The question came out before she could stop it. "You don't believe in redemption. You don't care about our dream. So why?" Kratos opened his eyes. In the darkness, they caught what little light remained and reflected it back cold. "Because 18 hours from now, beings who believe they have the right to judge you will try to end you. I have killed gods who believe the same thing." His hand moved to the chains at his wrists, that unconscious gesture Charlie had seen before. "And I am not finished." It wasn't an answer, not really. But it was all he had to give. "Get some rest, Charlie," Vaggie said gently. "We'll need you sharp tomorrow." Charlie nodded, but couldn't quite make herself leave. There was something hypnotic about watching Kratos sit there, a statue carved from violence, waiting for permission to become motion again. "One more thing," she said. "When this is over, when we've survived or whatever happens, you don't get to make decisions about what we become. This is still my hotel, my dream." Kratos tilted his head slightly, the closest she'd seen to curiosity from him. "I'm not trying to take it from you." His voice carried something that might have been respect or might have been pity. "I'm trying to keep it from being taken at all." Thunder cracked overhead closer now. Artificial. A warning from heaven that time was bleeding out faster than anyone wanted to acknowledge. Charlie retreated to her room, but sleep wouldn't come. She lay there in the dark, listening to the hotel breathe around her. Every creak of wood sounded like breaking bones. Every whisper of wind through cracks sounded like dying screams. Somewhere above heaven sharpened its judgment. Somewhere below, Kratos waited, with the patience of stone. And in between, Charlie's dream hung by threads, growing thinner with each passing second. "It's fine." The alarm woke her 4 hours later, though she'd never truly slept. Vaggie was already up, already armored, already checking weapons with the systematic precision of someone who'd done this too many times. "Status?" Charlie asked, throat dry. "Perimeters set. Fighters positioned. Kratos is—" Vaggie paused, frowning. "He's doing something on the roof. Won't say what." They found him laying out strips of angelic steel in patterns that made no geometric sense, until Charlie tilted her head and recognized them trap configurations. Improvisational mines that would activate when stepped on, designed to cripple wings and shred holy flesh. "Where did you learn this?" she asked. "Necessity." He secured another strip with wire scavenged from somewhere in the building's guts. "Angels die like anything else when you understand their anatomy." Charlie's stomach twisted. This was knowledge earned in blood. Every trap he set represented battles she couldn't imagine. Couldn't want to imagine. Nifty popped up from a ventilation shaft, making both women jump. "Ooh, are we making murder traps? Can I help?" "I'm very good at murder traps." Kratos glanced at the manic Cyclops demon, then at Charlie, then back to his work. "Small hands useful for tight spaces. Can she follow instructions without improvising?" "Absolutely not," Charlie and Vaggie said simultaneously. "Good." Kratos gestured to a pile of steel fragments. Chaos makes patterns harder to predict. Nifty dove into the work with disturbing enthusiasm, humming something that might have been a lullaby, or might have been a death march. Charlie descended back into the hotel, checking on positions, offering words of encouragement that felt increasingly hollow. What could she say? "You might die today, but at least you'll die for something. Heaven wants to erase you, so try not to get erased." She found Husk restocking the bar, because of course he was. "Liquid courage," she asked. "Liquid honesty." He poured 2 fingers of something dark. "People die better when they're not lying to themselves about it." "That's grim. That's hell, princess." He took a long drink. "But hey, at least we got front row seats to the apocalypse. Some demons pay good money for this kind of entertainment." The radio on the bar crackled to life, Alastor's doing undoubtedly. "Emergency broadcast from Heaven's Embassy." A voice like crystallized smugness filled the air. "Attention denizens of Pride Ring. The annual extermination will commence in 14 hours. All sinners are advised to seek shelter and accept judgment with dignity. Resistance will be met with escalated force. Thank you, and may you find peace in your final hours." 14, not 18, not even the degraded estimate from last night. 14 hours. Charlie's hands clenched into fists. They were taking even the time-shaving hours off like scraping meat from bone. Kratos appeared in the doorway, expression unchanged by the announcement. "They're moving faster than projected," he said. "Means they're confident or scared of us." Charlie almost laughed. "We're a handful of sinners in a hotel. What could we possibly do that scares heaven?" Kratos' gaze settled on her with uncomfortable intensity. "You could survive?" The words hung in the air like a curse or a promise. Outside Pride Ring's neon signs flickered and died one by one. Heaven's advance work, cutting power, removing light, making the coming slaughter easier to execute in calculated darkness. Charlie looked around her hotel. Her dream wrapped in steel and desperation, her vision of redemption transformed into a fortress designed for killing. And somewhere in the back of her mind, a small voice whispered the question she didn't want to answer. If we become monsters to fight monsters, what are we really saving? The radio crackled again. Not an announcement this time, just static. White noise filling the spaces between heartbeats. Then Alastor's voice, smooth as poisoned honey. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and ghouls, prepare yourselves. Heaven's coming to the show. And we're going to give them a performance they'll never forget. Somewhere in the hotel's depths, someone laughed. Nervous, frightened, alive. For now, Charlie closed her eyes and made a promise to herself. Whatever happened in the next 14 hours, whoever she had to become to see it through, she would remember this feeling. This moment of standing at the edge of violence and hating every step that led her here. She would remember. And when it was over, if she survived, she would find a way back. She had to believe that, because without that belief, the cracks inside her would become breaks, and breaks became shatters, and shatters became dust. Thunder rolled overhead, artificial and ominous. Time bled. Heaven sharpened its wings. And in the Hazbin Hotel redemption, prepared to meet judgment with steel in hand and ash in its throat. The first spear punched through the roof at 3:47 a.m. No warning. No trumpet fanfare, just the shriek of metal tearing wood and the wet crunch of impact below. Someone screamed, the scream cut off mid-breath. Charlie was moving before conscious thought caught up. Her feet hit the hallway floor as more impacts shuddered through the building's skeleton. Not random, coordinated. A grid pattern designed to saturate defensive positions with maximum casualties. Vaggie appeared at her side, already in full combat mode, eye-scanning the ceiling for breach points. "They're early," she said, voice tight. 14 hours, my ass. They lied. Can they do that? They're heaven. They can do whatever they want. The roof exploded inward. White light carved through darkness like surgical instruments. And through that light came the exorcists, dozens of them, wings spread, faces masked, weapons drawn. They descended with the organized precision of an extermination squad that had perfected genocide into choreography. No speeches, no declarations, just killing. A sinner on the second floor took a spear through the spine. His body convulsed once, then collapsed into ash that wouldn't reform. Permanent, final, gone. Charlie's breath stopped. This was real. Another wave dropped. Spears rained like judgment made metal, each one seeking flesh with unerring accuracy. The hotel's defenders scattered, some finding cover, others freezing in that fatal moment when the brain refuses to accept incoming death. Kratos moved through the chaos like a scalpel through flesh. One exorcist dove at him, spear aimed for his throat. He sidestepped, minimal movement, maximum efficiency, and caught the weapon's shaft mid-thrust. The angel's momentum became her downfall. Kratos redirected the spear's trajectory with brutal geometry, driving the point through its owner's chest. Wings crumpled. The body hit floor, stayed down. They bled. Good. Two more came at him from flanking positions. Coordinated attack. Standard heaven doctrine. He'd seen it before, killed it before, would kill it again. The blades of exile uncoiled. Chains sang through air. The first blade caught an angel's wing at the joint-severing muscle and tendon with surgical precision. She spun, mid-flight balance destroyed. Kratos' second blade found her throat before gravity finished the job. The other exorcist adjusted strategy, pulling back to engage at range. Smart. Wouldn't save her. Kratos closed distance with 3 strides. She thrust her spear downward. He didn't dodge. Let it graze his shoulder, a shallow cut barely deep enough to bleed. The angelic steel burned different than normal wounds. Sharper, more final. He cataloged the sensation, committed it to combat memory, and continued forward. His hand closed around her mask. Yanked. The impact against the floor cracked porcelain and bone simultaneously. Her weapon skittered away. Kratos retrieved it, tested the balance, nodded once. Angelic steel. Confirmed threat. Now confirmed weapon. He drove the spear through her heart with the same clinical detachment a butcher showed meat. Across the courtyard, Angel Dust was discovering that jokes died harder than he did. Oh fuck, oh fuck, oh. His rifles barked continuously, punching holes in wings and armor. Some hits connected, others didn't. The exorcists kept coming, kept diving, kept killing with systematic efficiency that made contract hits look like amateur hour. A sinner beside him took a blade through the eye. Dropped. Didn't get up. Angel's stream of profanity choked off mid-word. That could be permanent. That could be him. That could be... Focus! Vaggie's voice cut through his spiral. She was everywhere at once, directing fire, pulling civilians back, creating kill zones with furniture and debris. Concentrated fire, don't let them separate you. The cannibal town volunteers fought with grim professionalism using angelic weapons distributed hours earlier. They knew how to kill, knew how to die, knew the difference between theater and war. 3 exorcists descended on their position. 2 didn't make it back up, but the 3rd one got through. Spear found flesh. A volunteer Charlie didn't know his name had barely spoken to him, clutched his stomach as light poured through the wound. His face registered surprise more than pain. Then nothing, just ash drifting through combat haze. Charlie felt something inside her crack wider. Not the same crack from yesterday. Deeper. The kind that threatened structural integrity. Charlie, Vaggie grabbed her arm, dragging her behind an overturned table as more spears hammered their position. Stay low. You can't help if you're dead. People are dying. People were always going to die. That's what war means. An exorcist crashed through the window above them, wings flaring for landing. Vaggie's spear met her mid-descent. The angel crumpled mask, cracking holy light flickering out like a dying bulb. Vaggie retrieved her weapon without ceremony. You want to help get the wounded to 2nd floor. Now. Charlie nodded, throat too tight for words. Crawled through debris toward a sinner, clutching a bleeding arm. Normal blood, not the ash-inducing kind. She could work with normal blood. Somewhere behind her, Kratos had stopped counting kills. The exorcists adapted faster than expected. Stopped coming at him individually. Started working in squads using Heaven's standard 3-point assault pattern. Distract, flank, kill. He'd fought gods who used better tactics. 4 angels converged on his position. The lead one thrust high, forcing him to block. The other 3 exploited the opening, or tried to. Kratos twisted using the caught spear as a fulcrum. Pulled. The angel came with it momentum hijacked. She became a shield against her sister's attacks. Blades pierced her back instead of his. She screamed a very human sound for something claiming divine purpose. Kratos released her, already moving. His chain wrapped around another's throat, yanked tight. The 3rd angel swung her blade in a wide arc, aiming for decapitation. He ducked under, caught her wrist. Broke it with a sharp twist that made bones grind audibly, even through armor. The spear dropped. He caught it reversed grip, drove it upward through her jaw. The 4th one tried to escape. Got 3 feet before Kratos' thrown blade punched through her wing. She fell hard, graceless mortality catching up to immortal flesh. His boot found her neck, pressed down. She struggled briefly, then stopped. 13 down, 60 plus still airborne. Not enough. Across the battlefield, Husk had abandoned the bar for a fortified position near the stairs. His hands shook as he loaded another rifle, not from fear, though fear was certainly present, from recognition. He'd seen wars before, seen armies clash and ideologies bleed. This wasn't ideology. This was pest control wearing righteousness like cologne. Behind you. Nifty's shriek preceded her blade. An exorcist who'd gotten too close learned the hard way that small didn't mean harmless. Nifty's knife found gaps in armor with disturbing accuracy. Once, twice, 3 times in rapid succession. The angel collapsed, surprised by death delivered from something barely 4 feet tall. Nifty giggled, wiped her blade clean, vanished back into the chaos. Husk took a long drink from a flask that had somehow survived. Fuck heaven. Fuck redemption. Fuck everything that isn't getting through the next 5 minutes. The next 5 minutes brought 20 more deaths, not all on Hell's side. The exorcists lost numbers 2 more than expected, actually. The angelic weapons distributed earlier proved their worth. Sinners who'd never held anything sharper than a bottle learned that desperation made excellent teachers. But heaven had numbers, had wings, had the advantage of fighting a war they'd trained for against an enemy they'd practiced genociding annually. The hotel's defenders had spite stolen weapons and a walking war crime who wouldn't stop killing. It wasn't enough. Charlie pressed her hands against a sinner's chest, trying to slow bleeding that poured too fast. His eyes found hers wide, with the kind of terror that comes from realizing death might actually mean something this time. Am I? His voice broke. Is this it, really it? She wanted to lie. Wanted to promise redemption, second chances, that beautiful dream she'd built this entire hotel around. I don't know, she whispered. He died 30 seconds later. Didn't ash. Just stopped breathing. Dead like a human, not a demon. The angelic wound had rewritten his existence. Charlie's hands stayed pressed against his chest long after the heartbeat ended. Vaggie found her there, pulled her up gently but firmly. Charlie? Charlie, we need to fall back. 2nd floor like we planned. He was trying to help. I know. And we're going to make it mean something, but not if we die here. Movement in her peripheral vision. An exorcist isolated from her squad saw them. Changed trajectory mid-flight spear, angled for Charlie's back. Kratos' blade took her in the throat. The angel's momentum carried her corpse another 6 feet before physics and mortality caught up. She hit the wall, slid down, leaked divine ichor that looked disappointingly red. Kratos retrieved his blade without looking at Charlie, already scanning for the next threat, the next kill, the next problem requiring violent solutions. 2nd floor, he said. Not a suggestion. But you can't save them by dying beside them. Move. Vaggie was already pulling her toward the stairs. Charlie looked back, once saw the courtyard, painted in blood and ash and broken wings. Saw defenders fighting with everything they had against angels who fought like they'd done this 1,000 times before. Because they had. Extermination Day wasn't a battle. It was a routine. And this year the routine was getting messy. On the roof. Kratos' improvised traps activated. Angelic steel strips triggered by pressure, designed to maim wings and cripple flight. 3 exorcists discovered this the hard way. Their screams added new harmonics to the combat chorus. More adjusted tactics. Stopped landing. Stayed airborne. Used ranged attacks and dive bombing runs. Kratos adapted. Grabbed debris, broken furniture, chunks of masonry, and threw with enough force to knock angels from the sky. Not elegant, not efficient, but effective. One exorcist, particularly aggressive, made the mistake of getting too close. Kratos caught her by the ankle mid-dive, used her as a flail against 2 of her sisters. All 3 hit the ground in a tangle of feathers and fractured pride. None got back up. But for every angel he dropped 3 more filled the gap. The mathematics of attrition were simple and brutal. Heaven had more soldiers than hell had defenders. The radio in the bar crackled to life. Alastor's doing even now, even during this. His voice carried that theatrical quality that somehow persisted through apocalypse. Well, quite the turnout we have today. Heavens brought their A-game, ladies and gentlemen, and what a magnificent show of static. Not natural static, the kind that came from interference, from something cutting signal. Alastor's voice returned, but the performance edge had dulled. Replaced with something almost resembling genuine concern. Ah, I see. How very unexpected. Then nothing. Dead air. The radio demon had gone silent. Vaggie cursed in 3 languages. That's not good. That's really not good. Charlie wanted to ask why. Wanted to understand what could make Alastor abandon his running commentary. The light changed, not the white gold light of standard exorcists. Something brighter. Purer. The kind of light that made everything else look like cheap imitation. And through that light, descending with the slow confidence of absolute power, came a figure wearing a halo that burned like a miniature sun. Adam, first man, commander of heaven's armies, the angel who'd never lost an extermination. He surveyed the battlefield with casual contempt, taking in the dead exorcists, the still fighting sinners, the hotel that refused to collapse on schedule. When he spoke, his voice carried across the combat zone like a PA system, powered by divine authority. You fucking roaches really thought you could fight back. He laughed, not theatrical like Alastor, but genuinely amused. This is adorable. Watching you try, watching you die, watching you learn that heaven doesn't lose. Kratos stood among the corpses of 14 angels, chains dripping ichor expression unchanged. He'd heard speeches before, from gods, from titans, from powers that claimed dominion over life and death. The speeches never stopped what came after. Adam's gaze found him. Recognition flickered not of identity, but of category. Threat assessment. The kind of look one apex predator gave another when territories overlapped. And what the fuck are you supposed to be? Adam asked, tilting his head. Some kind of special hell demon overlord with a stick up his ass. Kratos said nothing. Just watched. Calculated. Memorized attack patterns, defensive gaps, the way Adam carried his weight. Zeus had been arrogant too. Zeus had also been very surprised at how quickly arrogance became mortality. Strong, silent type. I get it. Adam cracked his knuckles, holy light intensifying around his form. Makes the killing more satisfying when you scream. The exorcists pulled back, forming a perimeter, giving their commander room to work. This was theater now. Performance, proof of dominance. Charlie felt the weight of every choice that had led here. Every decision that had seemed so important yesterday. Every moral compromise that had cracked her foundation. This was the consequence. This was the price. Heaven's strongest angel. Hell's most stubborn dream. And between them, a creature who'd killed divinity before and carried the scars to prove it. Somewhere in the hotel's depths, someone was praying. Charlie could hear the words drifting through shattered windows and broken walls, prayers to God, to mercy, to anything that might still listen. The prayers went unanswered. Above, more thunder, more artificial weather patterns designed to disorient and demoralize. Below, Kratos shifted his stance, minutely, the kind of adjustment that preceded violence. Adam noticed, smiled wider. Yeah, the angel said, light gathering in his palms. This is going to be fun. And for the first time since arriving in hell, Kratos felt something that might have been anticipation. Not hope, never hope. Just the familiar gravity of a fight against power that believed itself untouchable. He'd missed this. That battle was intense. It is so satisfying just watching Kratos use those chains to take down angels like they are nothing. He's not even breaking a sweat while everyone else is panicking. It is pretty crazy that the angels lied about the time too. It shows that heaven is not as holy as they pretend to be. I love how Kratos is basically a one-man army here. But Charlie is starting to realize that war is much messier than she ever imagined. What do you think about Kratos' fighting style compared to the others? Personally, I think he's just being too brutal. Things seem to get fucking crazier in the next part of this story. The quiet came first. Not silence. Hell never achieved true silence, but a quality of stillness that felt wrong. Like the city itself had stopped breathing. Charlie noticed it between heartbeats. The background hum of Pride Ring's neon infrastructure, always present, had dropped to a whisper. The distant sounds of combat from other districts faded to nothing. Even the screams of dying sinners seemed muffled, distant, unimportant. Adam floated 20 feet above the courtyard halo, casting light that made shadows retreat. He wasn't hovering. Hovering implied effort. This was suspension through absolute authority, gravity offering suggestion rather than command. "So," Adam said, voice carrying effortlessly across the battlefield, "this is the famous Hazbin Hotel, the princess's little redemption project." He turned slowly, surveying the damage with theatrical disappointment. "Gotta say, Charlie, I expected more less corpses, maybe. More hope. Isn't hope your whole thing?" Charlie stepped forward. Vaggy's hand shot out, catching her arm. "Don't," Vaggy whispered. "He's baiting you." "I know." Charlie pulled free gently but firmly. "But someone has to answer." She moved to the courtyard's edge, standing where Adam could see her clearly. Blood spattered her clothes, not hers, belonging to people she'd tried to save, tried to protect, tried to give second chances. "We're still standing," she said. "That's more than you expected." Adam laughed. Not the cruel mockery from before, but genuine amusement, like watching a child insist they could fly. "Sweetheart, you're breathing. That's different from standing. Standing implies you've got a chance." He gestured at the carnage below broken wings, ash piles the bodies of defenders who'd believed redemption was worth dying for. "You're just dying slower. With more drama. Honestly, I appreciate the effort. Makes the cleanup more satisfying. These were people. These were sinners." Adam's voice hardened, losing the playful edge. "You know what they did to end up here. The murders, the betrayals, the 1,000 little cruelties that make someone irredeemable." His halo pulsed brighter. "I was there, Charlie. First human, first death, first to see what humanity becomes when the rules disappear. And let me tell you, redemption is a fantasy you're selling because you're too naive to accept what they are." Charlie felt the words land like physical blows. Not because they were true, because part of her, the part that watched people die despite everything she'd tried, wondered if he was right. "I don't believe that." "Of course you don't. You're sheltered. Daddy's little princess playing with concepts she doesn't understand." Adam drifted lower close enough that Charlie could see her reflection in his mask. "But belief doesn't change reality. And reality is you lose. Every time. Every extermination. Because heaven doesn't lose." Somewhere behind Charlie, Alastor materialized from shadow. Radio static crackled around him louder than usual, aggressive. My, Alastor said, smile fixed in place. "Such confidence from heaven's lapdog. Tell me, Adam, do you rehearse these speeches, or does the arrogance come naturally?" Adam's attention shifted. The temperature dropped. "Radio demon, still pretending you matter?" Adam tilted his head. "You're a middle management overlord who thinks parlor tricks make him special. Want to know the truth? You're on our list. You just haven't expired yet." Alastor's smile widened, static intensifying. "How terrifying. I'm simply trembling with—" Adam waved a hand. The static stopped, not faded. Stopped. Like someone had cut the wire connecting Alastor to the fundamental frequency he'd built his power around. Alastor's expression didn't change. Smile still locked antlers, still sharp posture, still theatrical. But his eyes widened fractionally. The kind of recognition that came from realizing the rules had changed mid-game. He opened his mouth. No static accompanied the words. "How? I'm the first man, dipshit. Everything you've got came from me eventually. You really think your radio magic is special?" Adam's voice carried contempt that felt older than mountains. "You're using borrowed power, and I can take it away whenever I want." The silence that followed wasn't peaceful. It was oppressive, heavy. The kind that made people want to scream, just to prove sound still existed. Alastor's smile cracked. Hairline fracture barely visible, but there. He stepped back. Not fleeing, not retreating. tactically repositioning his entire presence, shrinking for the first time since Charlie had known him. "Well," Alastor said quietly, voice stripped of static and theatricality. Just words, normal, powerless words. "This has been educational." He melted into shadow and didn't return. Charlie felt something fundamental shift. Alastor had been one of their strongest pieces. The wild card who couldn't be predicted or controlled, but could be counted on to create chaos in their favor. He'd just left, not beaten, outmatched. There was a difference, a terrifying one. Adam watched him go with satisfaction that felt like teeth. "One down. How many more overlords you got hiding in this dump, princess?" Kratos moved then, not attacking, just shifting position, placing himself between Adam and the hotel's main entrance. A statement without words. Adam's attention locked onto him with predatory focus. "Right, you." The angel's voice gained interest the way a scientist might regard an unusual specimen. "Still haven't figured out what you are. Too human to be a demon. Too dead to be human. Too..." He paused, actually studying Kratos. "Angry. That's old anger. The kind that survives death." Kratos said nothing. Watched. Waited. "Not gonna talk, that's fine. Makes this easier, actually." Adam cracked his neck, holy light gathering in his palms. "See, I was gonna save you for last. Make an example. But honestly, you're pissing me off just standing there." Charlie stepped forward again, voice finding strength she didn't know she had. "Stop. Just stop for 1 second. You don't have to do this." "I absolutely do. It's literally my job. Your job is murder. My job is judgment." Adam spread his arms, halo flaring. "God made humans. Humans sinned. Humans died. Hell collected the garbage. And once a year, I take out hell's trash so it doesn't pile up." He pointed at Charlie with casual certainty. "That includes your little project. That includes everyone who thought redemption was an option. That includes you if you keep standing in my way." Kratos' hand moved to his chains. Subtle adjustment. Combat preparation. Adam caught it. Smiled. "Oh, you want to dance? That's cute. Real cute. But here's the thing. Mystery meat, I've killed thousands. Tens of thousands. Every year for years beyond counting. And you know how many have beaten me." Silence. "0. Adam let the word hang. 0 sinners. 0 demons. 0 overlords. 0 Lucifers. Yeah, your daddy tried once. Didn't work out great for him." The angel descended another few feet close enough that fighting became inevitable. "So what makes you think you're different?" Kratos stared up at him. Expression carved from stone. In his mind, another voice echoed older Greek, equally certain. "You cannot change your fate, Kratos." Same tone. Same absolute conviction that judgment was final and resistance was futile. Zeus had been surprised when his throat opened. Adam would be too. But not yet. Not here. Timing mattered. Precision mattered. Kratos had fought enough gods to know, let them talk. Let them perform. Let them believe their own mythology. Then kill them when they stopped expecting it. Charlie felt Vaggie at her side, spear ready but trembling slightly. Not from fear. From recognition of scale. This wasn't a fight they could win through tactics or desperation. This was hierarchy made flesh. Divine order, backed by celestial authority. "We're not giving up," Charlie said, voice steadier than she felt. "No matter what you do, no matter how many you kill, we're not surrendering the dream." Adam studied her for a long moment. Something almost like pity crossed his features. "Kid, the dream was already dead. You just haven't stopped believing in the corpse yet." He raised one hand, light coalescing into a spear of pure, holy energy. "But hey, I respect commitment. So I'll make this quick, relatively painless. considerate mercy. The air pressure changed, dropped. The kind of atmospheric shift that preceded lightning strikes. Vaggie pulled Charlie back. Now would be a really good time for a miracle. We're fresh out. Then we improvise. Adam drew back his armed spear aimed at the hotel's center. Not at Kratos. At the building itself. The symbol. Destroy the structure, destroy the dream. Prove that hope dies as easily as flesh. Kratos shifted stance. Calculated trajectory velocity, probable impact point. His muscles coiled. Not enough time to prevent the throw, enough time to intercept. He'd survived worse. But before Adam could release, before Kratos could move, before Charlie could scream, the light changed. Not Adam's light, something else. Something that made holy radiance look like a birthday candle. And from the hotel's ruined upper floor, a new voice cut through the tension with paternal authority that made Adam's confidence look like teenage bravado. Adam, what did I tell you about property damage? Lucifer Morningstar descended through destroyed ceiling with casual grace, looking annoyed the way parents looked when picking up children from detention. Adam's entire posture changed. Still arrogant, still dangerous, but subordinate now. Like a wolf realizing there was an older, larger wolf watching. "Sir," Adam said, tone shifting to something resembling respect, "I was just being extra, as usual." Lucifer landed beside Charlie, adjusting his coat with the air of someone deeply tired of celestial politics. "Every year I tell heaven, quick, clean, minimize collateral. Every year you turn it into performance art. With all due respect, Lord Morningstar, they're killing angels. They're defending themselves. There's a difference." Lucifer glanced at the corpses scattered across the courtyard, sighed. "Though I admit this year's numbers are surprising." His gaze found Kratos, lingered. "Ah, that explains things." Adam bristled. "Are you seriously protecting them?" "I'm protecting my daughter, you oversized choir boy." Big difference. Lucifer's voice carried steel beneath the casual tone. "And last I checked, Charlie isn't on your extermination roster. She's harboring condemned souls in her hotel, in her territory, under my protection." Lucifer smiled and the temperature plummeted. "You want to debate jurisdiction? We can call a council. Get the seraphim involved, make it official, or..." He let the word hang. Adam's jaw clenched. Political calculation warred with combat instinct. Charlie could see it in the way his light flickered, uncertain. "Or," Lucifer continued, "you declare this extermination concluded, take your remaining forces, and we pretend this mess never reached my doorstep. Everyone saves face. No paperwork. No explanations to the higher-ups about why you needed backup." Silence stretched, taut, fragile. Finally, Adam lowered his hand. The spear dissipated. "This isn't over." "It never is. See you next year, Adam." The angel rose, gathering his remaining exorcists with a gesture. They formed ranks professional despite losses and began ascending toward the portal that had opened in Hell's permanent twilight. But before vanishing completely, Adam looked back at Kratos. Recognition sparked not friendly, but respectful. The way warriors acknowledged worthy opponents. "Next time," Adam said. "No interruptions, just you and me." Kratos nodded once. Agreement without words. Then heaven departed, taking its judgment and corpses with it. The silence that followed was different from before. Not oppressive, exhausted. The quiet of survivors counting wounds and wondering how they'd lasted this long. Lucifer turned to Charlie, expression softening. "You okay, sweetie?" Charlie wanted to answer. Wanted to say she was fine, they'd won, everything would be all right. Instead, she looked at the ash piles. The blood. The bodies of people who'd believed in her dream, hard enough to die for it. "I don't know," she whispered. Lucifer pulled her into a hug that felt impossibly safe for being in hell. "That's the most honest thing you've said all day." Behind them, Vaggie checked perimeter defenses. Angel dust and husk emerged from cover faces, painted with shock and relief in equal measure. Nifty appeared from somewhere, already starting to clean blood off the walls with disturbing enthusiasm. And Kratos stood alone in the courtyard, chains dripping ichor that wasn't his expression unchanged. He'd fought Zeus, Ares, Athena, gods who'd claimed dominion over life and death. Adam was next. But first, the hotel needed securing. The wounded needed tending. The dead needed whatever passed for last rites in hell. He turned toward the building, already cataloging structural damage planning repairs, preparing for the next wave. Because there would be a next wave. There always was. Somewhere in the ruins, a radio crackled briefly back to life. Alastor's voice, distant, carefully neutral. Well, that was humbling. Then static. Then nothing. Radio silence indeed. The respite lasted 17 minutes. Enough time to drag wounded behind cover. Enough time to reload weapons with shaking hands. Enough time for the reality of survival to settle into bones that expected death. Not enough time to breathe. The portals shimmered open again. Smaller this time. Tactical. A probe rather than an assault. 6 exorcists descended in tight formation, spears ready, moving with professional caution. Testing defenses, measuring response. Vaggie tracked their approach from a second-floor window, mind calculating trajectories and odds. They're scouting. Means the main force is regrouping. How long? Charlie asked. Minutes, maybe less. Behind them, the hotel groaned. Structural damage from the first assault had compromised load-bearing walls. Parts of the 3rd floor sagged ominously. The building that represented hope was actively trying to collapse. Sir Pentious emerged from the basement, covered in soot and mechanical grease, dragging something that looked like a cross between a cannon and a particularly aggressive music box. I have devised a solution, he announced with manic pride that would have been endearing if they weren't actively dying. Behold the Pentious Mark 7, explosive delayed detonation atmospheric compression device. Husk looked up from behind his barricaded bar. That's a bomb. It is a strategic deterrent. It's a bomb with delusions of grandeur. Pentious adjusted his coat with theatrical dignity. The principle is sound. Channeled explosive force creates a shockwave that disrupts flight patterns and destabilizes aerial formations. In theory, it could clear the immediate airspace for approximately 90 seconds. Kratos appeared in the doorway, expression unchanged, but his attention fixed on the device with professional assessment. Range, 40 meters, requires manual positioning and activation. Pentious's enthusiasm dimmed slightly. The timer mechanism is unreliable. Someone would need to remain with the device to ensure detonation at optimal altitude. The words hung in air that suddenly felt very cold. Charlie understood immediately. Her chest constricted. No, absolutely not. We're not... Princess. Pentious straightened Napoleon hat askew, but eyes serious. I have been many things. Inventor, villain, occasional nuisance. But I have never been useful in battle. Not truly. He gestured at the hotel's defenders, exhausted, wounded, desperate. These people stayed because you gave them something to believe in. The least I can do is give them time to keep believing. We'll find another way. There is no other way. His voice carried certainty that surprised everyone, possibly including himself. The mathematics are quite clear. 90 seconds of cleared airspace means evacuation routes remain open. Means the wounded survive. Means your dream gets 90 more seconds to prove itself. Vaggie's jaw clenched. She understood tactical necessity, hated it, understood it anyway. Angel Dust stared at Pentious like seeing him for the first time. You're serious. You're actually fuck, man. You don't have to do this. On the contrary, I believe I do. Pentious looked at Charlie and something like peace settled across his features. You tried to save me, Princess. Despite everything I'd done. Despite every reason not to. You offered redemption like it was something real. His smile turned wistful. Perhaps this is how I find out if you were right. Charlie felt her throat close. Words wouldn't come. Every argument, every alternative, every desperate plea died before reaching her lips because they all led to the same conclusion. More would die if he didn't go. Fewer would die if he did. The calculus of war brutal and simple. Cherry Bomb appeared from somewhere, face painted with a kind of recklessness that masked terror. "If you're doing this, at least let me..." Pentious kissed her. Quick, fierce final. "Remember me fondly," he said when they separated. "Or at least remember I went out with proper dramatic flair." He picked up his device, testing its weight with the care of someone handling their own eulogy. Kratos watched this exchange without expression. When Pentious moved toward the courtyard entrance, Kratos didn't stop him, didn't offer encouragement, didn't do anything except step aside to let him pass. Their eyes met briefly. Recognition passed between them, not friendship, but respect. The kind warriors gave each other when facing the math that didn't favor survival. Kratos nodded once. Pentious returned it. Then he was moving device clutched to his chest, heading for the breach point where exorcists would converge thickest. "Wait." Charlie tried to follow, but Vaggy's hand caught her. "If he runs, we move," Vaggy said, voice rough with things she wouldn't let herself feel. "If we stop, more die." "He's going to..." "I know." Charlie pulled free anyway. Got 3 steps before Kratos' hand settled on her shoulder. Not restraining, just present. Heavy with the weight of every similar choice he'd seen play out across millennia of war. "He chose," Kratos said quietly. Through the shattered windows, they watched Pentious climb the rubble pile, like a man ascending to execution by his own design. The exorcists spotted him, shifted formation wings, adjusting for assault vectors. Pentious planted his device fingers, moving across its surface with engineer's precision. The mechanical whirring became audible even from this distance. He looked back once. Not at Charlie. At the hotel itself. At the symbol. At the dream he'd mocked and doubted and secretly hoped might be real. Then he grinned that manic, theatrical grin that had annoyed everyone who'd ever met him and saluted. For the glory of scientific progress and marginally noble sacrifice, the angels descended. Pentious pushed the final switch. Light erupted. Not holy light, mechanical light. Fire and force compressed into a sphere of physics-denying violence that expanded with mathematical precision. The shockwave caught 4 exorcists mid-dive. Wings crumpled, bodies tumbled. The remaining 2 veered off formation, shattered aerial superiority, temporarily neutralized. 90 seconds, just like he'd calculated. When the light cleared, the rubble pile was empty. No body, no ash, just scorched stone and the faint smell of gunpowder. Sir Pentious was gone. The silence that followed felt like drowning. Angel Dust's knees buckled. He caught himself against the wall mouth, working around words that wouldn't form. Husk poured 2 drinks, downed both. Nifty stopped cleaning. Just stopped. Stood perfectly still with a rag in one hand and an expression that suggested her chaos-addled brain couldn't process this particular input. Charlie stared at the empty space where someone who'd trusted her dream had just ceased existing. Her hands shook. Her breath came in shallow gasps that threatened to become something worse. Vaggy pulled her close. "We move. Now. Before those 90 seconds run out. He's dead. Yes, and if we waste what he bought us, he died for nothing." The words hit like slaps, necessary ones. Charlie nodded. Couldn't speak. Nodded. Kratos was already moving barking orders with the efficiency of someone who'd fought too many desperate retreats to waste time on grief. Civilians' basement. Fighters' second-floor windows. Wounded who can move help others. Wounded who can't stay down stay quiet. The defenders responded. Muscle memory and survival instinct overriding the hole Pentious had left. Vaggy guided Charlie toward the stairs. "Come on. We need you functional." "I killed him." The words came out flat. "Dead. I let him go out there because the math made sense, and now he volunteered. He chose. You didn't kill him. War did. That's not... It's exactly enough." Vaggy's grip tightened. You can fall apart later. Right now, people need you standing. Charlie climbed the stairs on legs that felt borrowed. Her mind kept replaying that salute, that grin, that absolute certainty that his death would mean something. She'd promised redemption, promised second chances, promised that sinners could be more than their worst moments. Sir Pentious had been ridiculous, pompous, frequently annoying, and loyal in ways that surprised everyone, including himself. And now he was proof that believing in something didn't make you immune to dying for it. The thought lodged in her chest like shrapnel. On the second floor, Angel had his rifle back up tracking movement through shattered windows. His face was wet. He wasn't bothering to hide it. "Goddamn hero," he muttered. "Stupid goddamn hero." Husk handed him a flask. Without comment, Angel took it, drank deep, handed it back. 90 seconds, Husk said. "Make them count." The portal shimmered again. Larger this time, the scouting phase was over. More exorcists poured through dozens strong, moving with renewed aggression. They'd lost numbers, lost advantage, lost the element of surprise, but they still had wings, still had heaven's backing, still believed righteousness justified genocide. The hotel's defenders opened fire. Bullets carved through holy flesh. Angelic weapons found angel targets. The courtyard became a killing floor again, painted in colors that belonged in churches and abattoirs in equal measure. Kratos fought with mechanical efficiency chains singing through air blades, finding throats with surgical precision. Each kill bought seconds. Each second bought lives. But there were too many. Always too many. An exorcist broke through the defensive line spear aimed at Angel's exposed flank. Angel saw it too late. Weapon tracking wrong direction, body positioned poorly. The spear never landed. Kratos' blade intercepted mid-thrust chains, wrapping around the shaft, redirecting momentum. The angel spun off balance. Kratos' boot found her chest. She went through a wall. Angel stared. "You just keep firing." "Right. Yeah. Firing." Angel's hand steadied fractionally. Not much. Enough. 90 seconds became 60, 60 became 30. Pentious' final gift was burning down. Charlie stood at the window, watching defenders fight for every inch of ground her dream occupied, watching people risk permanent death for the chance that redemption might be real. She'd wanted to save them. Wanted to prove heaven wrong. Wanted to build something better than the cycle of violence and judgment. Instead, she'd built a fortress, armed sinners. Watched good people die for her idealism. The crack inside her, the one that had started with angelic steel distribution, widened into something that threatened to consume her entirely. Vaggy appeared at her side, blood spattered and grim. "We're holding. Barely. But holding. At what cost?" "The only cost there ever is." Vaggy's voice carried the weight of too many wars. "Everything we've got." The 30 seconds expired. The next wave descended, and somewhere in hell's eternal twilight, Sir Pentious' final act bought the Hazbin Hotel just enough time to keep dreaming. Whether anyone would wake from that dream alive remained to be seen. But they were still fighting, still standing, still believing despite evidence suggesting belief was a luxury they couldn't afford. The Napoleon run had ended. The war continued. Man, I am actually tearing up a bit. Sir Pentious really stepped up, like he went from being a joke to a literal hero in 90 seconds. It is wild because Kratos usually thinks everyone is weak, but even he gave a nod of respect to the Snake Man. Maybe Charlie's idea of redemption is working, just not in the way she expected. Sacrifice is the ultimate second chance in a weird way. I do really wish Pentious actually made it to heaven. Now let's keep going because the main boss is finally stepping onto the field. The wave broke against the hotel like divine wrath made tactical. 20 exorcists, coordinated assault. Angels who'd trained for this annual genocide with the professional boredom of exterminators on their 1,000th job. They expected resistance, expected casualties, expected hell to fight back with the desperate creativity of condemned souls. They did not expect to be winning. The courtyard ran red with ichor, both angelic and demonic. Bodies stacked like cordwood. The defenders fought with everything they had left, which increasingly felt like nothing. Charlie pressed her back against a crumbling wall demon form, flickering at the edges of her consciousness. She'd felt it before, that other self. The part of her bloodline that screamed power and dominance and everything her dream rejected. She'd never let it out, never needed to, never wanted to become the monster heaven insisted she was. But Sir Pentious was dead. The hotel was dying, and heaven kept coming because heaven always came, always won, always proved that hope was just another word for delusion. An exorcist broke through the defensive perimeter spear aimed at a wounded sinner who couldn't run. Charlie moved without thinking, throwing herself between steel and flesh. The blade punched through her shoulder, not deep. Deep enough. Pain blazed white-hot. Angel steel burned different, permanent, final. The exorcist yanked her weapon free, preparing the killing thrust. Vaggy's spear took her in the throat first. The angel crumpled mask, cracking holy light, fading to nothing. Charlie, Vaggy pulled her backhands, already assessing the wound. How bad? Bad enough. Charlie's vision blurred. The demon form pressed harder against her control, sensing weakness, offering strength. We need to fall back. Regroup. There's nowhere to fall back to. Charlie looked past Vaggy at the battlefield. At people fighting with borrowed weapons and stolen courage. At the dream, she'd dragged them into bleeding out in real time. This is it. We hold or we die. Above the chaos, Adam descended with theatrical slowness, surveying the carnage with satisfaction that felt obscene. You know what I love about Extermination Day? His voice carried across the killing field. It's the only time we get to be honest. No politics, no pretense, just clean categorization. He gestured at the defenders. Sinners, condemned, irredeemable, and one very stubborn princess who refuses to accept basic math. Charlie pushed away from Vaggy, stumbling forward on legs that threatened to give out. Blood dripped from her shoulder, painting the ground in colors that didn't belong on someone claiming redemption. They're people. They were people. Past tense. Adam landed boots, crushing ash that used to be someone with a name. You keep making this mistake, Charlie. Thinking death in hell is tragic. But they already died. This is just administrative cleanup. Cleanup. The word tasted like poison, like every lie she'd told herself about making a difference. You're talking about murder. I'm talking about judgment. Adam's halo pulsed brighter. God's judgment, passed down through me. And you know what, I'm really good at my job. Thousands of years, thousands of exterminations, 0 failures. He tilted his head, studying her like a specimen. You really thought you could change that? You really thought your little feelings about redemption would matter against divine law? Somewhere in the back of Charlie's mind, something broke. Not the crack from before, something deeper, foundational. She'd tried peace, tried diplomacy, tried proving heaven wrong through example and hope, and stubborn refusal to accept that some battles couldn't be won with words. The results were written in ash and blood. You're right, she said quietly. Adam blinked. What? You're right. I can't change divine law. Charlie straightened shoulders, screaming protest. But I can change this outcome. The transformation started from inside out. Not gentle, not beautiful. Her bones shifted with sounds that made angel dust look away. Her skin rippled, horns erupting from her skull in jagged curves that looked more weapon than decoration. This wasn't a power-up. This was acceptance. If heaven wanted a demon, hell would show them what demons could do. Charlie's demon form was incomplete, unstable, fueled by desperation rather than mastery. Her movements were too large, too uncontrolled, like wearing armor 3 sizes too big. But the raw power was undeniable. She lunged at Adam with speed that surprised them both. Her clawed hand connected with his chest, sending the angel staggering backward through sheer force of impact. Adam recovered fast, holy light coalescing into counterattack. But his smile had dimmed. Recognition dawned. This wasn't the naive princess anymore. This was Lucifer's daughter finally accepting her birthright. Across the battlefield, Kratos fought with mechanical efficiency. 3 angels down. 4, 5. His chains sang their familiar song of violence and ending. He'd fought gods, titans, powers that claimed dominion over existence itself. Adam was just another name on an increasingly long list. But when the angel's attention shifted to Charlie, when Adam raised his hand and light gathered with killing intent, when his voice carried across the courtyard with absolute certainty, "You don't get to make choices anymore, princess. God already decided." Kratos stopped moving. 1 second of absolute stillness. Then his head turned, focused on Adam with attention that felt like targeting acquisition. The voice was different. The arrogance identical. The absolute conviction that judgment was final and resistance was futile. Zeus had said similar things, had claimed divine right, had treated mortality as a commodity to distribute or withhold based on celestial whim. Kratos had opened his throat for it, the blades of exile uncoiled fully. Not the controlled lethality from before. This was the weapon at full extension, chains screaming through air with velocity that made reality flinch. An exorcist who'd gotten too close. Learned why getting between Kratos and his target was statistically inadvisable. The blade took her head clean off. Kratos didn't break stride, just continued forward, already calculating trajectory angle, the exact point where Adam's arrogance would become vulnerability. Adam noticed. His expression shifted from theatrical confidence to something approaching genuine concern. "Oh, you want some too? That's adorable." Kratos closed 30 feet in 3 seconds. Speed that shouldn't have been possible without divine enhancement, driven purely by muscle memory and the fundamental physics of rage-given purpose. Adam threw up a barrier of holy light. Kratos hit it like a battering ram. The barrier cracked. Adam's eyes widened. "What the fucker?" The second strike shattered it completely. Suddenly, Adam was fighting instead of performing, blocking instead of posturing. Actually having to move to dodge, to treat this gray-skinned nightmare as a legitimate threat rather than an amusing distraction. His spear of holy energy met Kratos' chains in a shower of sparks that looked like stars dying. The impact sent shockwaves across the courtyard. Weaker combatants staggered. The hotel groaned protest. "You think you're special?" Adam's snarled mask cracking slightly. "You think killing a few angels makes you dangerous? I've faced armies, I've broken overlords, Kratos' boot caught him in the ribs mid-sentence. Adam went through a wall, came out the other side bleeding gold from a split lip. For the first time in recorded extermination history, Heaven's champion looked rattled. Charlie, still learning her demon form's capabilities, pressed the advantage. Claws raked across Adam's wings. One tore partially. Not enough to ground him, but enough to prove immortality wasn't the same as invulnerable. Adam spun light gathering in both hands. "All right. Playtime's over. You want to see what happens when I stop being nice?" The blast caught Charlie's center mass, sent her sprawling. Her demon form flickered, threatening to collapse back into fragile flesh. Vaggie screamed her name, already moving to cover her. Kratos didn't scream, just adjusted trajectory and kept coming. Adam's second blast met chains mid-flight. Kratos yanked, pulling himself through the energy like a swimmer through current. It burned. Angelic power searing flesh that had survived worse. He ignored it. His fist found Adam's jaw. Bone crunched. The angel's mask split completely, revealing a face twisted with genuine shock. "How are you?" Kratos grabbed his throat, squeezed. Adam's hands came up, holy light, gathering for point-blank detonation. The kind of attack that would take them both out in a sphere of divine retribution. Before he could trigger it, something fast and small streaked across his peripheral vision. Nifty, the tiny Cyclops demon, had somehow scaled Adam's armor like a particularly deranged mountain climber. Her knife-blessed angelic steel somewhere found the gap between pauldron and neckguard. The blade sank in. Not deep. Deep enough to make Adam's concentration shatter. The gathered light dissipated. His grip on Kratos weakened fractionally. Kratos used the opening. Released Adam's throat, grabbed his wing instead, yanked downward with enough force to dislocate the joint. Adam screamed, actually screamed. The sound was very human for something claiming divine authority. He kicked free wings, beating erratically, gaining altitude through sheer desperation. "This isn't, you can't. Fall back." The shout came from above. Another exorcist ranking officer by the authority in her voice. "All units, tactical retreat. Commander Adam is compromised." Adam's face twisted with rage, and something that might have been humiliation. "I didn't give that order." "Sir, you're bleeding. We need to regroup." The remaining exorcists disengaged with professional efficiency, grabbed their wounded, formed protective perimeter around their commander. Adam stared down at Kratos, at Charlie struggling back to her feet, at the hotel that refused to collapse despite every tactical advantage. "This isn't over," he said, voice tight with pain and fury. "Next time, no mercy, no hesitation, just cleansing." "Next time," Kratos replied, chains dripping gold and red in equal measure, "bring better angels." The portal opened. Heaven's forces retreated in good order, discipline overriding pride. But they retreated. For the first time in extermination history, hell had made them leave before the job was finished. The courtyard fell into shocked silence. Defenders stared at each other, at their wounds, at the impossible fact of continued existence. Charlie's demon form collapsed. She dropped to her knees, shoulders screaming, body shaking with exhaustion and aftermath. Vaggie caught her before she hit the ground completely. I got you. Did they? They left. We're alive." Vaggie's voice carried disbelief that matched everyone else's. "Holy shit, we're alive." Across the battlefield, Kratos stood alone among the corpses, breathing heavily, but standing. His wounds had already started healing, not fast, but steady. The kind of recovery that suggested mortality was negotiable for him. Angel Dust approached cautiously. You made Adam run." Adam. First fucking man. The guy who's never lost. Kratos said nothing, just looked up at the portal's fading light. Zeus had run too, at the end. When certainty became mortality and divine right met gravity, they always ran eventually. The question was whether they came back with better weapons or better sense. Husk appeared with a bottle that had somehow survived. Anyone else need to get absolutely shit-faced? Because I'm thinking that's the only rational response to whatever the hell just happened. Language. Charlie mumbled, then laughed weakly. Pain and relief and hysteria mixing into something that might have been joy or might have been breakdown. Vaggie held her tighter. You did it. Your demon form. I lost control. You saved people by becoming exactly what they said I was. By being strong when strength was the only thing that mattered. Vaggie pulled back enough to meet Charlie's eyes. You can hate it later. Right now, just accept that you're alive to hate it. Footsteps, heavy, deliberate. Kratos stopped beside them, looking down at Charlie with expression that might have been respect or might have been recognition. You fought, he said simply. I became a monster. You became what the battle required. Kratos' gaze shifted to the ruined hotel, the scattered defenders, the ash piles that used to be people. Monsters don't protect, they consume. You protected. He paused. That's the difference. Charlie wanted to argue. Wanted to explain that becoming powerful didn't make it right, that survival wasn't the same as victory, that she'd promised redemption, not damnation. But the words wouldn't come. Just exhaustion and blood loss, and the creeping realization that she'd crossed a line she couldn't uncross. Somewhere above, thunder rolled. But this time it wasn't artificial, wasn't heaven's doing. A new presence descended through hell's permanent twilight. bringing light that made holy radiance look like stage effects. Lucifer Morningstar landed in the courtyard with the casual grace of someone who'd just noticed his daughter bleeding and was trying very hard not to overreact. "Charlie? Sweetie?" His voice was carefully neutral. "Why are you covered in blood? And why does the first man's wing feathers decorate my front lawn?" Charlie opened her mouth, closed it. Had absolutely no idea how to explain. Vaggie filled the silence. "We won, sir." Lucifer blinked. Looked around at the carnage, the retreating portal, his daughter in partial demon form. Define won. "They left. We're alive." Charlie awakened. Vaggie's grip on Charlie tightened protectively. "We won." Lucifer's expression cycled through several emotions before settling on something between pride and existential concern. His gaze found Kratos, lingered. "And you're the reason Adam's wing is damaged." It wasn't a question. Kratos met his stare without flinching. "Yes, good." Lucifer cracked his knuckles, smile widening into something that reminded everyone present that Hell's King hadn't earned the title through pacifism. "Because now this is personal, and I'm very good at personal." The implication hung in Hell's thick air. Next time heaven came calling, they wouldn't face a hotel of desperate defenders. They'd face a king protecting his daughter, and they'd face whatever Kratos became when he stopped measuring his anger against mortality. Charlie looked at her father, at Kratos, at the defenders who'd survived through luck and brutality in equal measure. They'd won, barely, temporarily, but the cost was written in every ash pile, every wound, every compromise her dream had required to keep breathing. She'd become a demon to save sinners. The irony wasn't lost on her, but neither was the victory. The air pressure dropped, not gradually. All at once, like reality itself had flinched away from what was about to happen. Lucifer Morningstar stood in the center of the courtyard, surveying the carnage with the detached interest of someone evaluating property damage. His daughter bled. His home bore scars. Heaven's champion still breathed, all problems with solutions. Kratos remained motionless, 20 feet away. Chain still dripping, mixed ichor expression carved from the same stone that witnessed civilizations rise and fall. Two apex predators, one battlefield. No hierarchy between them. The silence stretched. Uncomfortable, necessary. Lucifer spoke first. "You're the one who made my daughter think she could fight heaven. Not accusatory, just stating fact. I gave her nothing she didn't already possess." Kratos replied. "Debatable." Lucifer's gaze shifted to where Charlie sat, Vaggie supporting her weight. "But effective. She's alive. That buys you consideration." "I don't require your consideration." "No." Lucifer's smile sharpened. "You require my airspace, my city, my hell." He gestured at the ruined hotel. "You're standing in my kingdom, wearing my daughter's blood on your hands, having just embarrassed heaven's finest. So let me be very clear, you don't get to be cryptic and aloof. Not here. Not now." Kratos turned fully to face him. Two immovable objects regarding each other with professional assessment. "Adam needs to fall," Kratos said flatly. "On that, we agree." Lucifer cracked his neck. "But here's the part where we establish rules. You don't give orders, I don't take them. We both want the same target destroyed. How we accomplish that is negotiable. I don't negotiate mid-combat. Then we improvise without stepping on each other's kills." Lucifer's eyes gleamed with something ancient and predatory. "I've seen warriors like you before. Proud, skilled, absolutely convinced their way is the only way. They usually end up dead or humbled." "Which did you end up?" Lucifer laughed. Actually laughed. "Both. Repeatedly. That's why I'm still here." His expression hardened. "Adam hurt my daughter, threatened my realm, insulted my hospitality. I'm going to make him regret existing. You can help hinder or stay out of my way. Choose quickly." Above them, the portal shimmered, not closing. Reinforcements incoming. Adam descended, flanked by a dozen fresh exorcists, wing damaged but still functional, mask broken, but expression visible and furious. Lucifer, his voice carried venom, finally decided to actually defend your territory. Or are you just here to watch your pet demon do the heavy lifting? Neither. Lucifer rose into the air with casual grace. I'm here to remind you why challenging me in my own domain has historically been a bad career move. Big talk from someone who lost the first war. I didn't lose. I relocated. Lucifer's power manifested as light that made Adam's halo look mass-produced. There's a difference. Kratos didn't join the verbal sparring, just positioned himself at ground level, cutting off Adam's escape vectors. Let them talk. Words changed nothing. Only action mattered. Adam noticed. His attention split between airborne king and grounded killer. Oh, I see. Tag team. How cute. Adam's halo flared. You really think 2 against 1 makes this fair? Fair, Lucifer tilted his head. You brought an army to kill my daughter's hotel. Forgive me if I'm not interested in sporting conduct. The exorcists moved to flank positions. Adam raised his hand, light gathering for another devastating blast. Last chance, Lucifer. Stand down. Let me finish the extermination. We can pretend this never. Lucifer moved, not attacking, appearing. One moment in the air, the next behind Adam, hand clamped around the angel's damaged wing. Adam screamed as Lucifer squeezed. The joint already dislocated by Kratos' earlier ground bone against bone. I don't stand down in my own house, Lucifer hissed. He threw Adam groundward with force that carved a crater in the courtyard. Kratos was already there. His boot met Adam's ribs, mid-impact. The angel bounced, momentum redirected before he could recover. Kratos' chains wrapped around his legs, yanked, slammed him back down. Adam's blast discharged wildly, carving a hole in the hotel's eastern wall. Defenders scattered. The exorcists dove to assist their commander. Lucifer intercepted 3. Not killing, occupying. Light met light in mid-air clashes that painted the sky in conflicting theologies. The remaining angels converged on Kratos. Mistake. His blades carved through divine flesh with the efficiency of machinery. One angel lost her weapon arm. Another took a chain through the chest. The third managed to draw blood angelic steel, finding the gap in his defense. Kratos ignored the wound, grabbed her spear mid-thrust, head-butted her mask hard enough to crack porcelain and skull simultaneously. She dropped. Adam used the distraction to break free, gaining altitude with ragged wing beats. You want to know the difference between me and you? He shouted down at them. I serve something greater. I have purpose, mandate, you're just... Lucifer appeared beside him, in the air, moving faster than Adam could track. I'm just the king of hell, Lucifer finished, who doesn't need a mandate to protect what's his. His fist caught Adam's jaw. The angel spun. Lucifer's follow-up strike shattered 3 ribs audibly. Adam fell. Kratos caught him. Not gently. His hand closed around Adam's throat, slamming the angel into the ground hard enough to crack stone. You talk too much, Kratos said flatly. He raised his blade for the killing strike. Adam's eyes widened. Wait, no. But before the blade could fall, Lucifer landed beside them. Hold. Kratos' hand stopped. He didn't release Adam, just turned his head slightly, expression questioning. Not yet, Lucifer said quietly. Let him feel it first. Let him understand what it means to be prey. Adam struggled. Kratos' grip tightened. Not enough to crush, enough to emphasize control. You're both insane, Adam choked out. Heaven will what? Lucifer crouched beside them, smile widening. Come back. We're counting on it. Double down. Please do. Escalate to actual war. He leaned closer. Adam, you walked into my house and threatened my family. The only reason you're still breathing is because I want you to deliver a message. What message? That hell doesn't kneel anymore. Kratos' grip shifted. Adam gasped, vision blurring from oxygen deprivation. Around them, the exorcists had pulled back, forming a defensive perimeter, but not engaging. Waiting for orders from a commander who couldn't give them. Charlie watched from the hotel entrance, supported by Vaggie. Her demon form had fully receded, leaving her looking small and human and absolutely horrified by what she was witnessing. This wasn't combat. This was execution delayed. "Dad," she called out weakly. "Dad, please." Lucifer's expression softened fractionally. But his hand didn't move from where it rested on Adam's chest, pinning the angel with casual pressure. "Sweetie, adults are working. This isn't you don't have to." "Yes, I do." Lucifer's voice carried finality. "They came for you, hurt you, made you bleed. I'm well within my rights to." A shadow moved, small, fast, unnoticed in the chaos of divine confrontation. Nifty. She'd been cleaning blood off the walls. Standard post-battle routine. No one paid attention to the tiny demon with the manic energy and knife collection. No one saw her approach Adam. No one registered the threat until her blade angelic steel, the same one she'd used before, found the gap beneath Adam's breastplate. The first thrust was awkward, unpracticed. She adjusted angle, tried again. This time it sank deep. Adam jerked. His eyes went wide with shock and pain and disbelief. Nifty giggled, stabbed again and again and again. "Bad angel, bad, no hurting Miss Charlie, no breaking hotel, bad, bad, bad." Each word punctuated by steel finding flesh. Kratos released Adam's throat, stepped back, watched the tiny demon butcher Heaven's champion with the detached interest of someone observing natural forces at work. Lucifer blinked, stood, looked down at Nifty, still stabbing with enthusiastic brutality. "Well," he said mildly, "that's efficient." Adam's halo flickered, cracked, shattered into fragments that dissolved before hitting ground. His light died first, then his breath, then the arrogance that had carried him through thousands of exterminations. The first man, Heaven's champion, architect of annual genocide, killed by a 4-foot cyclops demon, having what appeared to be a very productive cleaning session. Nifty stood, wiped her blade on Adam's coat, smiled at Kratos and Lucifer. All clean now. Then she skipped away, humming something that might have been a lullaby. The exorcists stared. At their commander's corpse, at the blood pooling beneath him, at the impossibility of what just happened. Lute, Adam's second in command, landed beside the body, checked for pulse that wouldn't come. Her face cycled through denial, shock, rage. She grabbed Adam's broken halo, the physical proof, the symbol. "Fall back," her voice cracked. "All units fall back. Commander is down. Repeat, commander is down." The exorcists retreated with professional efficiency despite obvious distress. Formed ranks, began ascending toward the portal. Lute looked back at the hotel, at Lucifer, at Kratos, at the tiny demon still humming cheerfully. "This isn't over," she said, voice shaking with grief and fury. "We're coming back, with reinforcements, with Seraphim, with what?" Lucifer asked conversationally. "Apologies because you just lost your champion on my front lawn. That's not exactly a strong negotiating position." Lute's jaw clenched. She clutched the halo tighter as if it could resurrect the authority it represented. "We'll see," she spat. Then louder to her troops, "Exorcists, move out." Heaven departed, taking its wounded, its dead, and the shattered remains of its invincibility. The silence that followed felt different. Not peaceful, victorious. The kind that came after impossible things became actual. Charlie stared at Adam's body, at the blood, at Nifty cleaning her knife with disturbing thoroughness. "We killed him," she whispered. "Nifty killed him," Vaggie corrected gently. "We just created the opportunity." That's the same thing." "Is it?" Lucifer walked over, expression unreadable. "He came to kill you, sweetie. Killed others. Would have kept killing until hell was properly sanitized. Nifty ended that threat. I'm not seeing the moral ambiguity here. Because you're not trying to redeem people. No, I'm trying to keep my daughter alive. Lucifer pulled her into a hug despite her resistance. Redemption is a beautiful dream, but dreams don't stop spears. They don't prevent genocide. They don't... Dad? Charlie pushed back, meeting his eyes. I know what survival costs. But if we lose who we are in the process, then you figure out who you need to become. Lucifer glanced at Kratos, who stood apart from the reunion, watching the portal's remnants fade. Ask him. He survived longer than any of us. At what cost, I don't know. But he's still here. Still fighting. Still refusing to kneel. Kratos said nothing. Just turned toward the hotel's ruins, already assessing structural damage, planning next moves. Lucifer watched him go. That one's trouble. He saved us, Vaggie pointed out. He enabled us. There's a difference. Lucifer's expression turned calculating. He's not staying for redemption. Not fighting for ideals. He's here because heaven represents something he hates fundamentally. He smiled without humor. I can work with that. But Charlie, sweetheart, don't confuse allies with friends. Charlie looked at her father. At Kratos' retreating form. At the defenders celebrating survival with the manic energy of people who'd accepted death and received life instead. They'd won. Heaven had retreated. Adam was dead. But the cost was written in blood that wouldn't wash away. And somewhere above, in realms beyond hell's reach, heaven was regrouping, planning, preparing for response that would make Extermination Day look like warning shot. The war had escalated, and hell for the first time in its eternal existence had fired back. Whether that made them heroes or simply targets for bigger guns remained to be seen. But they were still standing, still breathing, still refusing to accept judgment as final, and that Charlie thought might be the only victory that mattered. Adam's death was not poetic. There was no dramatic monologue, no final declaration of heaven's righteousness, no last words condemning hell to eternal judgment. Just Nifty's knife finding flesh between armor plates again and again, while the first man's eyes widened with disbelief that someone so small could make him so mortal. Bad angel, she repeated cheerfully. Very bad. The halo shattered. Light leaked from wounds that would never heal. Adam's body convulsed once, then went still with the finality that came to things that stopped being divine and started being dead. Nifty wiped her blade clean on his wing, hummed something off-key, skipped away to find more cleaning supplies. The exorcists froze mid-formation. Their commander, invincible eternal victor of thousands of genocides, lay crumpled in hell's dirt. Killed by a Cyclops demon, having what appeared to be an exceptionally productive Tuesday, Lute landed beside the corpse. Her hands shook as she checked for pulse, for breath, for any sign that this was temporary. That resurrection protocols would engage, that heaven's champion would stand again. Nothing. Just cooling flesh and the broken halo fragments dissolving into ash. Commander is down. Her voice cracked over the word. All units tactical retreat. Immediate extraction. Do not engage. Repeat, do not engage. The exorcists scattered. Not the professional withdrawal from before. This was rout barely disguised as order. Angels grabbed wounded, abandoned positions, fled toward the portal, with the desperate urgency of immortals discovering mortality had followed them home. Lute clutched Adam's halo, the physical proof, the symbol they'd need to explain this disaster. Her gaze swept the courtyard. Found Lucifer. Found Kratos. Found the tiny demon cleaning knife enthusiastically. This is war, Lute said flatly. Not extermination. War. And when we return, you won't... Lucifer interrupted mildly. We will, with Seraphim, with apologies. Lucifer's smile widened. Because you just lost your champion on my lawn. That's not exactly leverage for escalation. Lute's jaw clenched. She rose, wings spreading despite damage. We'll see who has leverage when heaven's full might descends. She ascended toward the portal. The remaining exorcists followed formation, ragged discipline fraying at edges where certainty used to be. The portal shimmered, began contracting. Kratos watched it close. Calculated angles, velocity, the window of opportunity narrowing with each second. Charlie stumbled forward, still supported by Vaggie. It's over. They're leaving. We won. No. Kratos' voice carried finality that made her stop. This is not victory. This is intermission. What are you? But he was already moving. Not toward the hotel. Toward the portal. Lucifer noticed. His expression shifted from satisfied to calculating. Where exactly do you think you're going? Kratos didn't answer. Just kept walking, chains coiling, boots crushing ash that used to be angels. Kratos, Charlie called. Stop, it's over. He paused, turned to look at her. In his eyes she saw recognition of pattern, of cycle, of the fundamental truth that killing symptoms never cured disease. They will return, he said. With more, stronger, angrier. Because you proved they can bleed. Proving something bleeds only makes people want to kill it permanently. Then we'll defend again. Until what? Until hell runs out of defenders, until heaven runs out of patience. Kratos shook his head. I have fought this war. Different names, same outcome. The cycle continues until someone breaks it. Lucifer stepped forward, power radiating like heat haze. You're talking about invading heaven, alone. That's not strategy. That's suicide. Perhaps. Kratos' gaze shifted to the portal, now half its original size. But I have killed gods before. Broken divine orders. Ended prophecies that claimed to be eternal. His hand moved to the chains at his wrists. Heaven is just another Olympus. And Olympus burned. That's insane. That's necessary. Charlie felt something crack inside her, different from before. This wasn't the crack of compromise or survival. This was the crack of watching someone walk toward death with full awareness and choosing it anyway. You don't have to do this, she said quietly. Stay. Help us rebuild. Prove that. Prove what? Kratos interrupted, not harshly, just factually. That sinners can be redeemed. You already know they can. Sir Pentious proved that with his last breath. He gestured at the ruined hotel. You have your proof. You don't need me for redemption. Then what do we need you for? You don't. He looked at Lucifer. Your father will protect this place. Your will keeps it standing. But protection is reactive. Defense is endless. Someone must make them stop sending armies. Lucifer studied him. Two apex predators acknowledging each other's territory. You understand they'll kill you. Real angels, seraphim, things that make Adam look like an intern. You can't fight all of heaven. No. Kratos turned back to the portal, now 3/4 closed. But I can make them regret starting. He broke into a run. Not desperate. Calculated. The boots of Hermes activating speed building with each stride, momentum becoming weapon. Stop him, Charlie shouted. Lucifer raised one hand. Power gathered. Could snare, could bind, could force Kratos to halt. Then he lowered it. Why aren't you? Because he's right. Lucifer's expression was unreadable. Someone has to make this stop. And stopping it from here just buys time. He watched Kratos accelerate. He's choosing the hard way, the permanent way. Can't say I disagree with the logic. Kratos hit the portal's threshold at full speed. The closing edges tried to pinch shut. He wedged himself through anyway chains, anchoring reality on both sides. Body forcing the gap wider through sheer refusal to accept closure. For one moment he was silhouetted against light that didn't belong in hell. White, pure, blinding. Then he was through. The portal snapped shut, gone. The silence that followed felt like the world taking a breath it didn't know it needed. Charlie stared at the empty space where impossible things had just walked toward impossible odds. He's going to die. Maybe. Vaggy's grip tightened. Maybe not. He's survived worse. You don't know that. No, but I know he believed it. Vaggy turned Charlie away from the closing portal. Come on. We've got wounded to tend. A hotel to rebuild. A dream to keep standing. Charlie let herself be guided. But her mind stayed on that silhouette. That moment of absolute certainty, walking into absolute danger. Kratos hadn't said goodbye, hadn't made promises, hadn't claimed righteousness or justice, or any of the noble lies people told themselves before doing terrible things. He'd just identified a problem that would keep repeating and walked toward its source. That Charlie realized was the difference between an idealist and a warrior. Idealists built dreams. Warriors removed obstacles to those dreams existing. She was the idealist. He was the obstacle remover. And now he was gone. Lucifer floated down beside her, expression thoughtful. You realize what he just did changes everything. How? He invaded heaven. Alone, without permission, backup, or exit strategy. Lucifer's smile turned sharp. Heaven's been violating our borders for millennia. Annual genocide, extermination, all very official and sanctioned. But now, he gestured at Adam's corpse. Now we've killed their champion and sent a walking war crime into their territory. That's not defense. That's escalation. Is that bad? Depends on your definition. Lucifer crouched beside Adam's body, studying it with clinical interest. For hell might be our best chance. Heaven has to respond. Can't ignore a breach, can't pretend they're still invulnerable. For the first time in history, they're on the defensive. And for Kratos, Lucifer's expression sobered. For him, this is probably a death sentence. But I suspect he's fine with that. Men like him don't measure success by survival. They measure it by whether the thing they broke stays broken. Charlie looked at the defenders beginning to emerge from cover. At Angel and Husk helping wounded. At the hotel standing despite everything. At the ash piles that used to be people who'd believed in her dream. They'd won. Heaven had retreated. Adam was dead, but the cost kept climbing. And somewhere beyond Hell's reach, in realms of white stone and golden light, Kratos was doing what he did best, making divinity regret claiming authority over mortality. Whether he survived didn't matter to him. Whether heaven never came back would. Hot sight. 3 hours later, the hotel's defenders had managed something resembling order. Wounded were stabilized. Dead were counted. The structural damage that threatened collapse had been temporarily braced. Alastor reappeared from wherever he'd vanished to smile firmly in place, but static notably quieter. Well, he said, surveying the carnage. That was certainly educational. Who knew heaven could bleed lovely information? I'll be filing that away for future reference. Charlie didn't have energy to engage, just nodded. Alastor's gaze sharpened. Where's our mysterious friend? The walking war crime with commitment issues. Gone. Gone where? Heaven. Alastor blinked. His smile didn't falter, but something behind it adjusted. I'm sorry. Could you repeat that? I could have sworn you said. He went through the portal. Before it closed. Alone. Charlie met Alastor's eyes. He's going to make them stop. Permanently. For once, Alastor had no witty response. Just stared at the space where the portal had been radio static, crackling uncertainly. Well, he finally said, that's either the bravest thing I've ever heard or the stupidest. Possibly both. His gaze returned to Charlie. You realize what this means? That we're on our own again. That you won without him. Alastor gestured at the standing hotel. He gave you tools, training. But that last stand, That demon form, choosing to fight instead of fold. That was all you, darling. Charlie wanted to argue, wanted to point out all the ways Kratos had made the difference. But Alastor was right. The moment she'd transformed, the moment she'd stopped believing words could win and started accepting that power had its place, that had been her choice, not Kratos's. What happens now? She asked. Now. Alastor's smile widened. Now you rebuild. Prove your point. Make redemption something more than a lovely theory. His static intensified. And hope that your pet war god does enough damage up there to make them think twice about annual genocides. He dissolved into shadow, heading toward the bar, where Husk was already pouring victory drinks that tasted like survival. Charlie stood alone in the courtyard. Well, not quite alone. Vaggie appeared at her side, as she always did. You okay? I don't know. Charlie looked at Adam's body, at the blood, at the evidence that heaven could die. We killed him. We invaded them. We started something we might not be able to finish. Or, Vaggie countered gently, we ended something that should have stopped centuries ago. Extermination wasn't natural law. It was policy. And policies can change. Can they? Or did we just make them angrier? Does it matter? Vaggie pulled Charlie closer. We're alive. They're gone. And we've got time to figure out what comes next. Above them, hell's permanent twilight continued its eternal routine. No different from yesterday. No indication that anything fundamental had changed. But it had. Heaven's champion was dead. Hell had fired back. And somewhere in realms of white stone and golden authority, Kratos was teaching divine order the same lesson he'd taught Olympus. That godhood was negotiable. That judgment could be judged. That the cycle of divine violence ended when someone made divinity bleed permanently enough to scare them into stopping. Whether he succeeded or died trying wouldn't be known for hours, days, maybe longer. But the attempt itself was victory enough, because for the first time in existence, heaven had to look over its shoulder and wonder if something was coming for them the way they'd always come for hell. The answer currently forcing his way through celestial defenses with chains and fury and absolute certainty was yes. Very much yes. And nothing, not seraphim, not theology, not the weight of eternal righteousness was going to make him stop until the threat to hell stopped first, one way or another, permanently. And that is how you end a season. Kratos pulled the ultimate move and jumped right into heaven. He is basically saying, if you will not stop coming to my house, I will just come and break yours. It is interesting how Charlie is left behind to deal with the mess, while Kratos goes on a solo mission. He is not just a teammate, he's a force of nature. Do you think Kratos can actually take down all of heaven by himself? Or has he finally met his match with the seraphim? What was your favorite moment from this whole story? Let us talk about it in the comments. 3 days after heaven retreated, hell learned to breathe differently. The ash had been swept. The bodies counted. The wounded relocated to makeshift infirmaries that smelled like sulfur and cauterized hope. The Hazbin hotel still stood. Barely. Walls patched with salvaged materials that didn't match. Windows boarded where glass used to let light pretend it belonged. The neon sign, Charlie's Pride, her beacon, flickered erratically. H_ZBIN hot_L. Missing letters like missing teeth, but it glowed, imperfect, damaged, alive. Charlie stood in the courtyard, where Adam had died, scrubbing blood from stones that would never truly be clean. Her hands moved mechanically. Brush, rinse, repeat. The physical labor kept her from thinking too hard about what came next. Vaggie appeared with fresh water, didn't speak, just exchanged buckets and kept working alongside her. Angel Dust watched from the second-floor window rifle, still in reach despite the silence. Husk poured drinks no one wanted, but everyone needed. Nifty cleaned with the same manic energy as always, humming something that might have been a funeral march or might have been a birthday song. No one talked about Kratos. No one talked about Sir Pentious. No one talked about the fact that Heaven's annual genocide had ended not through diplomacy or redemption, but through violence so decisive it scared immortals into running. They just worked, rebuilt, survived. Because that's what came after victory, the labor of proving you deserve to keep existing. Lucifer visited once. Descended into the courtyard like a concerned parent checking on a child's science project after an explosion. "Status?" he asked Charlie. "Standing." "That's not what I asked." Charlie set down her brush, looked at her father with eyes that had seen too much and learned exactly enough. "We're functional. Defenders are recovering. Structural integrity is acceptable. We can open for business within the week." That's a very detached assessment from someone whose dream nearly died. Nearly isn't the same as actually. Charlie gestured at the hotel. "It's still here. I'm still here. That's enough." Lucifer studied her, recognized the shift. The princess who'd believed redemption could be gentle had learned it required being willing to become what you were saving people from. "You grew up," he said quietly. "I didn't have much choice. No one ever does." Lucifer glanced at the sky, at the space where portals used to open with predictable cruelty. "Heaven's been quiet. Too quiet. No statements, no threats, no diplomatic posturing. Is that good? It's unprecedented." Lucifer's expression turned calculating. They lost their champion, their invincibility, their moral authority to judge without being judged. And now they've got a walking catastrophe somewhere in their pristine realm, making them remember what it feels like to be prey. "You think he's still alive?" "I think alive might be the wrong question. The right question is whether Heaven regrets pushing hell hard enough to produce someone like him." Lucifer smiled without humor. "Based on their silence, I'd say yes." He departed without ceremony, leaving Charlie to her scrubbing and her thoughts. Across Pentagram City, the power vacuum began to fill itself. The V's gathered in Vox's tower, watching surveillance feeds with predatory interest. "So," Vox leaned back, fingers steepled. "Heaven's champion is dead. The hotel survived. And our resident chaos agent vanished into thin air, or rather through a portal to certain death." His screen face flickered with something approaching satisfaction. "Opportunities, ladies and gentlemen. So many opportunities." Valentino exhaled pink smoke. "The hotel's vulnerable." Charlie's distracted. "We could..." "I could absolutely not touch it," Vox interrupted. "Not yet. Not while Lucifer's still paying attention. Not while everyone's watching to see who moves first." His grin widened. "But we can position, we can plan. We can make sure that when the dust settles, we're standing in the right shadows." Velvet scrolled through social feeds, watching Hell's denizens process what happened. The narrative's already shifting. Some are calling it a miracle, others an act of war. A few insane ones are treating that gray psychopath like a folk hero. Let them. Vox's attention never left the screens. Myths are useful, especially when the person they're about isn't around to correct the story. They continued planning in comfortable malice, already calculating angles for a game whose rules had just been violently rewritten. In a realm of white stone and golden light, far from Hell's chaotic streets, Heaven convened emergency councils. Lut stood before Seraphim, whose names carried weight that crushed mountains. She clutched Adam's broken halo like a talisman against judgment. "Report," the voice commanded, not asking, demanding. "Commander Adam is confirmed deceased, killed by demonic forces during routine extermination operations. 47 exorcists lost, 73 wounded. The operation was compromised." Compromised. The word hung like accusation. Heaven's champion killed by the very filth he was sanctioned to cleanse. And you retreated. Tactical withdrawal, Your Grace. The hostile, designated as Kratos, demonstrated capabilities beyond projected parameters. Combined with Lucifer's direct intervention, Lucifer has not intervened in exterminations for millennia. Why now? Lute's jaw clenched. His daughter was targeted. He took exception. Silence, long enough to feel like verdict. And this? Kratos. Where is he now? Lute's hands trembled. Inside heaven's borders, Your Grace. He breached during our withdrawal. Security sectors 7 through 12 report incidents. 2 Seraphim dispatched to contain him have not reported back. The Council Wing's eastern gardens were destroyed. Something is moving through heaven's infrastructure and it refuses to be stopped. More silence, heavier, the kind that preceded catastrophes or policy changes. Seal all portals to hell, indefinitely. Your Grace, the annual extermination is suspended until further notice. The voice carried finality. We will not send more soldiers to die in a war we no longer control. We will not give hell further opportunities to humiliate us. We will address the infection within our borders. Then we will reconsider our relationship with the damned. Lute bowed, clutched the halo tighter. Wondered if this was how civilizations ended, not with grand battles, but with quiet admissions that invincibility had been mythology all along. Back at the Hazbin Hotel, night fell with the same indifference it always had. Charlie stood alone on the roof, looking out over Pride Ring's neon chaos. Somewhere in that sprawl, sinners were celebrating survival. Others were mourning losses. Most were just existing as they always did in the space between damnation and something resembling life. The hotel sign buzzed behind her. H_ZBINHOT_L. Imperfect, wounded, refusing to die, like her dream, like everything worth keeping. Footsteps. Vaggie climbed up beside her, didn't speak. Just stood there, presence more comforting than any words. Do you think he's alive? Charlie asked finally. Does it matter? Of course it matters. Why? Vaggie turned to face her. He made his choice. We made ours. He went to break heaven. We stayed to build hell. Both necessary, both impossible. Both happening anyway. Charlie wanted to argue. Wanted to say that people weren't disposable, that every life mattered, that there had to be a better way. But Sir Pentious was dead. Adam was dead. Heaven had learned to fear, and hell had learned to fight back, and somewhere in the pristine heights of divine authority, Kratos was teaching Seraphim the same lesson he'd taught Olympus. That power wasn't permanent, that judgment could be resisted, that sometimes the only way to stop a cycle of violence was to make violence itself terrified of continuing. I don't know how to do this, Charlie admitted. Keep the dream alive after everything it cost. No one does. That's why it's a dream. Vaggie's hand found hers. But you're still standing. The hotel's still standing. And tomorrow, someone's going to knock on that door asking if redemption is real. And you're going to say yes, because that's who you are. Even after becoming a demon to prove it, especially after. Vaggie squeezed her hand. You didn't lose yourself. You found what you were willing to become to protect what you believe in. There's a difference. Below them, the defenders finished their shifts, changed watch, continued the routine of survival that had replaced the routine of hoping not to die. The hotel stood, damaged, imperfect, absolutely refusing to collapse despite every tactical reason it should. Heaven was silent, wounded, learning that borders worked both ways. And somewhere, in realms of white stone and golden authority, a man who'd killed gods was teaching divine order what mortals had always known. That the powerful only stayed powerful when the powerless accepted it. And acceptance was negotiable. Whether he survived didn't matter anymore. Whether heaven never felt safe enough to exterminate again did. The sign flickered behind Charlie. H_ZBIN hot_L. Missing pieces. Still glowing. Still open. Still offering the one thing hell had always needed and heaven had always denied. A second chance. Even when the first one ended in blood. Especially then.
If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and be sure to turn on notifications so you won't miss our future video. Thank you for watching, and we will see you next time.